Good morning, students. So in today's session I am taking a new lesson, that is quality, written by John Galsworthy. Before we'll start, let's see the theme. So here the main theme is commitment to one's work, to one's passion. Every worker is an artist if he loves his work and is immersed in it. The Gessler brothers' commitment towards their work is really touching. For them, their struggles, the hardships are nothing as long as they keep doing their work. So in this whole story, you will see the commitment of Gessler brothers, how much they are committed to their work. The tragedy of Gessler brothers signifies a moral decay in the search for material civilization. Human values are threatened by material gain. But at the end, you will see a sad ending where you will see the loss of Gessler brothers, how their moral values will decay in the search of material civilization. So let's start with our story. The story starts with a description of the boot shop. On top was the name plate Gessler brothers and a few shoes displayed on the window. So in this scene you can clearly see a shop, that is a boot shop, and there's a name plate that is Gessler brothers, and some shoes are also there. They are displayed. They make shoes on order. So here these Gessler brothers, they make shoes but on order. The narrator then narrates one of his meetings with Mr. Gessler. So here narrator is narrating one of his meetings with Mr. Gessler. He says it has not been possible to go to him much because the shoes he made have lasted very long and are the best of their kind. So here the narrator is saying that these Gessler brothers, they make very long lasting shoes. They take good quality of leather and they are the best of their kind. One day the narrator goes to their shop to get a pair of Russian leather shoes. Mr. Gessler retreats upstairs and come back after some time holding a fine golden Russian leather piece. After the narrator's approval, he says he'll get his shoes tomorrow fortnight. So here you can see that the narrator, he goes to their shop to get a pair of Russian leather shoes. So Mr. Gessler, he goes upstairs and he comes back holding a fine golden Russian leather piece. And you can see that after narrator's approval, he says that he'll get his shoes tomorrow fortnight. Now one day the narrator goes to their boot shop and tells him that the last shoes he got from him creak. After a long pause, Mr. Gessler asks him to bring the shoes to him. He assures that if he can't repair them, he will give the money back. So here the narrator, after some days, after few days, he goes to their boot shop and he says that the last shoes he got from him, it is now creak, it is torn now. After a long pause, so after a breath, Mr. Gessler, he just asks the narrator to bring those shoes to him, and he even assures that if he can't repair them, he will give the money to narrator. Another day he goes to Gessler brothers to order a new pair, wearing a pair of shoes which he bought due to some emergency from a big firm. So now another day, the narrator, he goes to Gessler's brother's shop, and that time he was wearing a pair of shoes which he bought from a big brand. Mr. Gessler at once recognized that the shoes are not made by him, and as the narrator entered the shop, Mr. Gessler, he just recognized that those shoes are not made by him. He touches a particular spot on the narrator's shoe where it isn't comfortable for the narrator and says that it hurts there. Even see, you can see that even Mr. Gessler, he is so keen about his work that he just touching a particular part of that shoe and he can say to the narrator that this part is not comfortable for the narrator and it is hurting to him. He expresses his contempt that those large firms attract customers through shiny impressive advertisement to sell their inferior quality products. So here, after seeing that shoes, Mr. Gessler, he is disappointed, and that's why he is showing his sorrow, his sadness about those big firms. He is saying that these big firms, they are attracting customers through their impressive shiny showrooms by their advertisement. and they just sell bad quality products. Then the author explains to him under what circumstances he had to buy those shoes. So at last here, the author, he just explains that in an emergency he had to purchase that shoes. Now the shoes lasted nearly 2 years, and in his next visit he receives quite a shock. So here you can see the shoes the narrator purchased lasted nearly 2 years, and after next 2 years when he visited to that shop, he just receives quite a big shock. When he enters the shop, he sees the younger Gessler brother, who informs him of elder Gessler's death. So the narrator, when he saw the young Gessler brother, and that brother just informed about the death of elder Gessler's death. That day he orders several pairs. It takes longer to make them, but the quality is even better than the previous ones. So that day the narrator, he just ordered so many pairs of shoes, and it was known to him that it will take time, but still the quality of previous one was better. So that's why he ordered. Soon after, the narrator leaves for abroad and returns after over a year. So after that, the narrator, he just leaves for abroad and he came back after over a year. The first shop he goes to is Mr. Gessler's. So when he came back to the country, he just goes to Mr. Gessler's shop. Mr. Gessler, now 75, is unable to recognize him at first. So here Mr. Gessler, he was unable to recognize because he is now 75. So he was unable to recognize the narrator. Narrator gives a huge order. The wait is longer than ever, but the quality only gets better. So this time the narrator, he gives a big order, and the wait is even longer than ever, but the quality only gets better. After so many years he came back, but still the quality is same. Now after a week, while passing the little street, the narrator thinks to go in and tell Mr. Gessler that the boots are perfect. So here the narrator, he is thinking that he should go into the shop and tell Mr. Gessler that the boots are perfect while he was passing to the little street. But when he goes to the place where the shop was, the nameplate is no longer there. But when he goes to that place, what he found that the nameplate is no longer there. Disturbed, he goes into the shop and a young English face greets him. So that time he was so disturbed. So he goes into the shop, and that time what he found that a young English person came outside and he greets him. So now after all that incident, the narrator, he inquires about Mr. Gessler and comes to know of younger Gessler's death. Upon hearing this, the narrator is quite shocked. So here you can see the situation of the narrator. He is so shocked. Why? Because now what he heard that the younger Gesslers even died. The young man explains to him that Gessler died from starvation. So here at the end you can see what this young person, he is explaining that the Gessler, he died out of starvation. He was so hungry. He used to devote himself to shoemaking so much that he used to forget about everything else. So here that person, he is showing the commitment, the passion of the Gessler brothers. Why he died out of starvation? Because he used to devote himself so much in his passion that he used to forget about everything else, even about his food. All the money went in the rents and leather. Whatever money they got, it went in the rents and leather. The fate was quite obvious from the beginning. So here the person, he is saying to the narrator that the fate, it was not with him. But both the narrator and the young man agrees that the Gessler brothers made good quality boots. So here at last we can see that Englishman and the narrator, they both are agree that the Gessler brothers, they made good quality boots. So children, in the end, what message we get through this beautiful story? That to become a master at any skill, it takes the total effort of your heart, mind and soul working together in unison. That means to become a master into your skill, you have to be with your mind, heart and soul. You have to be very hard working, And that's why here in this story also we can see that we saw that even that Gessler brothers, they were so committed to their passion, but the sad thing is that they lost their lives. Why? Because in today's world of mass produced big brands and consumerism, they lost their quality. So students, if you have any kind of doubt, you can ask me after revising this video lecture. Goodbye.